The elaboration theory, guidance for scope and sequence decisions. The elaboration theory is a moderately complex design theory that was developed by Professor Charles Reigeluth. It is based on cognitivist learning theory and it's student-centered. It is ideal for problem-based learning, situated learning, simulations, and on-the-job training. It is used primarily with medium to complex cognitive and psychomotor tasks which are performed differently under different conditions. It is concerned with both the scope or content of the instruction and the sequencing or grouping and ordering of the content. Before we move on, let's review some key terms to know in order to understand the theory. Teachers and designers often refer to scope and sequence together as if they are one and the same. In fact, they refer to two very different things. Scope refers to the content being taught or what the learner needs to know. The key question to ask with scope is, what will be taught and how much of it will be taught? What is taught, of course, will depend on the course generally and the organization that is sponsoring the course. Sequence refers to the order of the selected content. The question to ask regarding sequence is, in what order do I teach this content? Sequencing does not matter in every circumstance. It is only appropriate where there are very strong relationships within the content. If sequencing does not matter, then the elaboration theory is an inappropriate design theory. When developing task expertise, the elaboration theory calls for a use of the simplifying conditions method of sequencing. In this method, designers or teachers must identify simplified tasks for the content. A classic example of this is riding a bicycle. If the ultimate goal or the most complex task is to teach an individual how to ride a unicycle, then you would begin your simplified conditions method sequence by teaching the simplest whole task. In this case, that would be riding a tricycle. Once you teach this simple task, then you teach a second, more complex task. In this case, it's riding a bicycle. Once you teach riding a bicycle, then you can move to the desired level of complexity of riding a unicycle. An elaboration sequence is a sequence strategy based on different kinds of relationships within the content. A sequence assumes that different relationships are important for different kinds of expertise. Therefore, the kind of sequence that will best suit learning will depend on the kind of expertise you want to develop. If you want to develop task expertise, then you would use an appropriate sequencing method. Likewise, if you intend to develop domain expertise, then you would use different sequencing methods. A sequencing pattern is a topical or spiral pattern selected to sequence instructional content when more than one topic is taught. This decision is only made after scope has been determined. And again, if only one topic is being taught, selecting a pattern is unnecessary. When and why to use the elaboration theory. When used, the elaboration theory operates much like a camera lens. It allows the learner to see the big picture and then move into the smaller, more specific topics. The learner can move in and out as needed in order to learn the content. A holistic understanding of tasks results in the formation of stable cognitive schema to which more complex tasks can assimilate. For domain expertise, this sequencing results in the formation of scaffolding that makes more complex knowledge easier to attain. What are the sequencing methods and patterns? The simplifying conditions method. When using this method of sequencing, learners develop expert skill from the first completed task. A holistic understanding of the task results because it is taught in its entirety rather than in chunks. In this method is used to build task expertise. Task taught must be within the learner's zone of proximal development. In order to determine which tasks are appropriate, conduct a thorough task analysis. The conceptual elaboration sequence method is used to build domain expertise. It's used with concepts which are groupings or classes of objects, events, or ideas. Concepts explain the what of these classes. Use this sequencing method when goals call for learning many related concepts. And again, you teach the broader concepts before more narrow, detailed ones. Use a concept analysis to determine the scope. You can see in this example, our broad category is mammals. It's an object, and it's a class of things. The more narrow topics are dogs, cats, and monkeys, and then they can be subdivided even more into Pomeranians, golden retrievers, and etc. The theoretical elaboration sequence is again used to build domain expertise. Use this sequence when goals call for learning many related principles that are causal or natural process relationships. Causal relationships are those where there is a cause and probably an effect. This theory explains the why of things. Again, teach the broader concepts first, the broader principles first, then the more narrowed ones, and then you group principles into learning episodes. As you can see from our example of teaching the carbon cycle is the broadest principle. Thereafter you teach why photosynthesis occurs, why the plants need photosynthesis and how they benefit, the respiration, and thereon until you reach the most narrow possible detail. If you're teaching more than one topic, then it's appropriate to select a sequencing pattern. There are two primary sequencing patterns used with elaboration theory. The first is a spiral pattern. In the spiral pattern, where you have, of course, two or more topics, the learner spirals back and forth from topic A to topic B, topic A to topic B, until all content is covered. The benefit of using this pattern, of course, is that there is a built-in synthesis and review. The second sequencing pattern is called the topical pattern. In the topical pattern, again, you have at least two topics. The learner would learn the content from the simplest, most broadest principle or concept in topic A all the way to the desired depth. Only then does the learner move to topic B, C, or D, or so on, and then goes all the way down. This pattern has both benefits and disadvantages. The disadvantage, of course, is that by the time the learner completes all this and moves to topic B, then everything in topic A has been forgotten. The advantages are, of course, that there is complete attention to one topic. Any resources or materials or hands-on activities are able to be used here in a block of time uninterrupted and without distractions. And again, the disadvantage is that by the time the learner moves to topic B, everything in topic A has been forgotten. So the designer has to strategically build in some sort of synthesis and review if you decide to use a topical pattern. Let's review. Because the elaboration theory is a relatively difficult theory to apply, It is helpful to use something like this application analysis chart as you decide whether the elaboration theory is appropriate for your content. You can see this includes a step-by-step analysis from which questions to ask to when is to be applied and how. Just remember, use the elaboration theory for large amounts of moderate to complex relational content. General content and simpler tasks are sequenced and taught before specific content and complex tasks. Use the simplifying conditions method when task expertise is being taught. Use the conceptual or theoretical elaboration sequence to teach domain expertise. Use the sequence pattern when 2 or more topics are being taught.